You weren't supposed to find this, but now that you have, watch it. Because what I'm about to tell you will either transform your life or make you uncomfortable enough to click away. Raise your hand if you've ever caught yourself saying, I'll be successful when. Go ahead, raise it. I see those hands. Now keep it up if you've said, I'll be happy when I get that promotion. Or I'll start my business when I have enough money. Or I'll change my life when the timing is right. Here's the brutal truth nobody wants to admit. You've been waiting for permission that will never come. You've been sitting in the waiting room of your own life, expecting someone else to call your number. The doctor isn't coming. The boss isn't coming. The perfect moment isn't coming. Most people live their entire lives waiting for someone else to give them permission to succeed. They wait for their parents to believe in them. They wait for their boss to notice them. They wait for their friends to support them. They wait for the economy to improve. They wait for the stars to align. But success doesn't work that way. Success has never worked that way. Every single result in your life, good or bad, traces back to a decision you made. Not a decision someone else made for you. Not circumstances beyond your control. Not luck. Not timing. A decision you made. When was the last time you looked in the mirror and took complete responsibility for where you are right now? Not partial responsibility. Complete responsibility for your bank account, for your relationships, for your health, for your happiness, for everything. I'm not talking about blaming yourself. I'm talking about claiming your power. Because the moment you take complete responsibility for your results, you also take complete control over changing them. Most people would rather blame their circumstances than claim their power. It's easy. It's more comfortable. It lets them off the hook. But it also keeps them exactly where they are. You know what's interesting? The same event can destroy one person and make another person stronger. The same economic downturn that bankrupts one business makes another business million. The same diagnosis that defeats one person motivates another person to completely transform their life. What's the difference? The difference is the decision about what it means and what to do about it. Let me tell you about a turning point that happens to everyone, though most people miss it completely. It's the moment when you realize you hold all the power. Not some power, not most power, all the power. This moment doesn't come with fanfare. It doesn't come with a certificate or a congratulations card. It comes quietly, usually in the middle of what feels like failure or frustration. It's the moment when you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? I want you to think about someone you know who completely turned their life around. Not someone famous, someone you actually know. What happened to them? Did they get struck by lightning? Did they win the lottery? Did someone hand them a magic formula? No, they made a decision. One decision. They decided to stop being a victim of their circumstances and start being the architect of their future. This decision creates a cascade of different outcomes. Before this decision, they saw obstacles. After this decision, they see opportunities. Before this decision, they saw problems. After this decision, they see solutions. Before this decision, they asked, why me? After this decision, they ask, what now? The choice point comes to everyone. Most people get multiple choice points throughout their life. But here's what most people don't realize. You don't get to choose when the choice point arrives. You only get to choose what you do when it arrives. You can choose to shrink back into comfort and familiarity. You can choose to make excuses about why this isn't the right time. You can choose to wait for better circumstances, or you can choose to step forward into uncertainty and possibility. The people who step forward understand something the people who shrink back don't understand. Uncertainty is not your enemy. Uncertainty is your opportunity. Because in uncertainty anything is possible. In certainty only one thing is possible. More of the same. Small choices compound into life-changing results. The choice to read instead of watch television. The choice to save instead of spend. The choice to exercise instead of rest. The choice to learn instead of complain. The choice to take responsibility instead of blame. These seem like small choices in the moment, but they're not small. They're the building blocks of your future. Every choice you make is either building the life you want or building the life you don't want. There's no neutral choice. This brings us to something most people completely misunderstand about success. They think success comes from external circumstance. They think success comes from having the right opportunities, the right connections, the right timing, the right resources. But success doesn't come from external circumstances. Success comes from personal growth, and personal growth doesn't depend on Personal growth depends on your response to external circumstances. You don't get a harvest by yelling at the seeds. You don't get strong by complaining about the weight. You don't get wealthy by criticizing the economy. You get results by creating the right conditions and then doing the work. Think about a farmer. A farmer doesn't control the weather. A farmer doesn't control the market price for crops. A farmer doesn't control pests or diseases or natural disasters. But a farmer who focuses on what they can control, the quality of the soil, the choice of seeds, the timing of planting, the consistency of watering, gets a harvest more often than a farmer who focuses on what they can't control. The same principle applies to your life. You don't control the economy. You don't control other people's decisions. You don't control global events. But you control your response to these things, and your response determines your results. External circumstances don't determine internal growth. Internal growth determines how you handle external circumstances, and how you handle external circumstances determines your results. This is why two people can start with the same circumstances and end up with completely different results. It's not about the circumstances, it's about the growth. When you focus on becoming better, you automatically start getting better results. When you focus on building your capabilities, opportunities start appearing. When you focus on developing your character, people start trusting you with bigger responsibility. This is how small daily habits compound into major results over time. Reading 10 pages a day seems insignificant, but 10 pages a day becomes 3,650 pages a year. That's about 12 books a year. In 10 years, that's How much would your life change if you read 120 books about your field, about personal development, about business, about relationships? Exercising 20 minutes a day seems insignificant, but 20 minutes a day becomes 140 minutes a week. That's over 120 hours a year. In 10 years, that's 100 hours of exercise. How much would your health, your energy, your confidence change with 1,200 hours of exercise? Learning one new skill seems insignificant, but one new skill every 6 months becomes 2 skills a year. In 10 years, that's 20 new skills. How much would your value in the marketplace change with 20 new skills? The compound effect isn't just about money in the bank. The compound effect applies to everything. Your knowledge compounds, your skills compound, your relationships compound, your reputation compounds, your confidence compounds. But here's the key. The compound effect works in both directions. Positive habits compound into positive results. Negative habits compound into negative results. There's no neutral compound effect. Every day you're either getting better or getting worse. Every day you're either building or destroying. Every day you're either moving toward your goals or moving away from them. The choice is yours, but you must choose. Not choosing is also a choice. This is why working on yourself is the only reliable path to external success. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control what happens in you. And what happens in you determines what happens through you. The foundation of personal power isn't about changing your circumstances. The foundation of personal power is about changing yourself. When you change yourself, your circumstances automatically begin to change. When you become better, your results become better. When you grow, your opportunities grow. This principle has been true for thousands of years. It was true before the internet. It was true before electricity. It was true before the printing press. It will be true long after we're gone, because it's not based on technology or trends or temporary conditions. It's based on how life works. And how life works is this. You become what you consistently do. You don't become what you occasionally do. You don't become what you intend to do. You become what you consistently do. Your habits become your character. Your character becomes your destiny. This is the foundation of personal power. This is where transformation begins. Not with changing your circumstances, but with changing your response to your circumstances. Not with getting different opportunities, but with becoming the person who recognizes and acts on opportunities. Not with waiting for permission, but with giving yourself permission to begin. Now that you understand the foundation of personal power, you need to understand something that will change how you see everything that happens to you. Life operates in predictable patterns, and once you understand these patterns, you gain massive power over your circumstance. How many of you have noticed that challenges seem to come in waves? Raise your hand if you've ever said, "When it rains, it pours." Keep it up if you've noticed that opportunities also seem to come in clusters. This isn't coincidence. This is how life works. Life has seasons, just like nature has seasons. And just like a farmer who understands the seasons can prepare for each one, you can prepare for the seasons of your life. Think about winter. Winter isn't punishment. Winter is preparation. Winter is when the ground rests, when nutrients build up in the soil, when next year's growth is being prepared underground, where you can't see it. Without winter, there would be no spring. The same principle applies to your life. Every difficulty you face is preparing you for the next level of your success. Every challenge is building strength you'll need for opportunities you can't yet see. Every setback is teaching you skills you'll use to handle bigger responsibility. But here's what most people miss. You don't get to choose when the seasons change. You only get to choose how you respond to each season. Most people fight against the seasons instead of working with them. They fight against the winter of their lives instead of using it to prepare for spring. They fight against the autumn instead of using it to harvest what they've built. They fight against the summer instead of using it to grow. When you understand that life operates in cycles, you stop taking setbacks personally. You stop thinking something is wrong with you when things get difficult. You understand that difficulty is just part of the natural cycle of growth. Challenge cycles are predictable. If you pay attention to your life, you'll notice that similar types of challenges come up repeatedly. You'll face the same money challenges until you learn to handle money. You'll face the same relationship challenges until you learn to handle relationship. You'll face the same career challenges until you learn to handle your career. This isn't punishment. This is education. Life keeps presenting you with the same lesson until you learn it. Once you learn it, you move on to the next lesson. But if you keep failing the same test, you keep taking the same test, your response to these cycles determines your results. Two people can face the same challenge and get completely different results based on how they respond. One person sees a challenge as proof they're not cut out for success. Another person sees a challenge as proof they're getting closer to success. Which person do you think gets better results? The person who sees challenges as stepping stones instead of roadblocks. The person who sees problems as opportunities to grow instead of evidence they should quit. The person who sees setbacks as setups for comebacks instead of permanent defeats. This mindset isn't just positive thinking. This mindset is based on understanding how success actually works. Success isn't a straight line. Success is a spiral. You face similar challenges at higher levels. The challenges don't disappear, they evolve. When you understand this pattern, you can prepare for challenges before they arrive. You can build the skills you'll need. You can develop the mindset you'll need. You can gather the resources you'll need. You can create the support systems you'll need. Mental preparation is everything. When challenges arrive and you're not prepared, they overwhelm you. When challenges arrive and you are prepared, they strengthen you. The same storm that sinks one ship lifts another ship to its destination. The difference isn't the storm. The difference is the preparation. But let's talk about something even more important than handling challenges. Let's talk about recognizing and maximizing opportunities. Because opportunities follow the same pattern as challenges. They come in cycles. They come in clusters. They come when you're prepared and when you're not prepared. Most people miss opportunities because they're focused on their problems instead of their possibilities. They're so busy complaining about what's wrong that they can't see what's right. They're so busy looking backward that they can't see forward. Opportunities often come disguised as problems. The problem that annoys you might be the opportunity that enriches you. The challenge that frustrates you might be the opening that transforms you. The difficulty that exhausts you might be the training that prepares you. How do you recognize these disguised opportunities? You ask different questions. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You ask, what is this preparing me for? Instead of asking, how can I avoid this? You ask, how can I use this? Instead of asking, when will this end? You ask, what can I learn from this? The answers to these questions reveal opportunities that other people miss completely. Resource allocation becomes critical when you understand these patterns. You can't put maximum effort into everything all the time. You need to know when to push and when to rest, when to invest and when to conserve, when to take risks and when to play it safe. During challenge cycles, you allocate resources toward building strength, learning skills, and maintaining stability. During opportunity cycles, you allocate resources toward growth, expansion, and calculated risk. During rest cycles, you allocate resources toward reflection, planning, and preparation. This brings us to something most people never want to admit but desperately need to hear. The biggest obstacle to your success isn't your circumstances. The biggest obstacle to your success isn't other people. The biggest obstacle to your success isn't the economy or the market or the competition. The biggest obstacle to your success is you. More specifically, it's the part of you that sabotages your own progress. The part of you that starts strong but doesn't finish. The part of you that makes excuses instead of making progress. The part of you that blames others instead of taking responsibility. Everyone has this part. Everyone. The difference between successful people and unsuccessful people isn't that successful people don't have this part. The difference is that successful people recognize it and refuse to let it control their decisions. Self-sabotage shows up in predictable ways. It shows up as procrastination when you should be taking action. It shows up as excuses when you should be taking response. It shows up as blame when you should be looking for solutions. It shows up as fear when you should be moving forward. Procrastination isn't about time management. Procrastination is about fear management. You procrastinate on the things that matter most, because those are the things that scare you most. You procrastinate on starting your business because you're afraid it might fail. You procrastinate on having difficult conversations because you're afraid of conflict. You procrastinate on pursuing your dreams because you're afraid of disappointment. But here's what procrastination really cost you. It cost you momentum. It cost you confidence. It cost you opportunities. It cost you respect from others and respect from yourself. It cost you the life you actually want. Excuses are even more dangerous than procrastination because excuses make you feel justified in not taking action. Excuses make you feel like a victim instead of a creator. Excuses make you feel like your results are someone else's fault instead of your own responsibility. Listen to the excuses you make. I don't have time. I don't have money. I don't have connections. I don't have experience. I don't have support. I don't have opportunity. Now listen to what successful people say about the same circumstances. I'll make time. I'll find money. I'll build connections. I'll gain experience. I'll create support. I'll create opportunity. Same circumstances. Different mindset. Different results. The excuse mindset says, I can't because. The success mindset says, I will by. The excuse mindset focuses on obstacles. The success mindset focuses on solution. Blame is the most dangerous form of self-sabotage because it makes you powerless. When you blame your parents, you give them power over your results. When you blame your boss, you give them power over your career. When you blame the economy, you give it power over your finances. When you blame other people, you give them power over your happiness. But when you take responsibility, you take back your power. When you stop blaming others, you start controlling your results. When you stop making excuses, you start making progress. When you stop procrastinating, you start achieving. The mentality of success is completely different from the mentality of mediocrity. The mentality of success asks, what can I do? The mentality of mediocrity asks, what's being done to me? The mentality of success asks, how can I improve? The mentality of mediocrity asks, whose fault is this? The mentality of success asks, what's my next move? The mentality of mediocrity asks, why me? These aren't just different questions. These are different operating systems. They produce different thoughts, different emotions, different decisions, and different results. You can't run success software on mediocrity hardware. You can't think like a victim and get victor results. You can't act like everything is someone else's fault and expect to control your outcomes. Here's a simple framework for eliminating these negative patterns. First, catch yourself in the act. Notice when you're making excuses. Notice when you're procrastinating. Notice when you're blaming others. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. Second, interrupt the pattern. Ask yourself, is this helping me or hurting me? Ask yourself, is this moving me toward my goals or away from my goals? Ask yourself, is this the person I want to be or the person I'm trying to change? Third, replace the pattern with something better. Instead of making excuses, make a plan. Instead of procrastinating, take one small action. Instead of blaming others, ask what you can learn. Instead of focusing on problems, focus on solutions. This isn't easy. These patterns exist for a reason. They protect you from risk, from failure, from disappointment, from discomfort, but they also protect you from growth, from success, from achievement, from the life you actually want. You have to decide what you want to be protected from. Do you want to be protected from temporary discomfort, or do you want to be protected from permanent regret? Do you want to be protected from the risk of failure, or do you want to be protected from the certainty of mediocrity? The choice is yours, but you must choose. Because not choosing is also a choice, and it's usually the wrong choice. Understanding these patterns and eliminating self-sabotage creates space for something much more powerful. It creates space for the daily disciplines that transform ordinary people into extraordinary achievers. It creates space for the habits that compound into the life you actually want. What if everything you want already exists, just on the other side of discipline? Not a question of fate, talent, or background. The real question is, are you willing to do what most won't, every single day, without applause, without shortcuts, and without stopping? You don't rise by wishing. You rise by working when it's hard, when no one sees, when the in your head tells you it doesn't matter. The truth is, that is lying. It always lies to protect your comfort, not your calling. And the more you listen to it, the further you drift from the version of you that's capable of doing the extraordinary. Transformation doesn't show up with fanfare. It shows up disguised as a choice. Get better or stay the same. The ones who transform their lives don't wait to feel ready. They start. They commit. And then they repeat that commitment until it becomes who they are. They know discipline isn't the enemy of freedom, it's the foundation of it. People waste years trying to feel motivated, hoping for the right time, waiting for the energy. But momentum doesn't come from inspiration, it comes from execution. Day in, day out. Boring days, busy days, bad days. The ones who build something meaningful don't look for a spark. They are the spark. They train their mind to act regardless of how they feel. And that's where transformation begins. Not in some giant leap, but in the smallest acts repeated with purpose. It's brushing your teeth with discipline because you care about how you show up. It's making your bed because you respect your space. It's showing up 5 minutes early instead of 5 minutes late. These are not just habits, these are the bricks of your new identity. The way you do the smallest things becomes the way you handle everything. Want to know someone's future? Watch their routine. Watch what they do when no one is holding them accountable. That's where the truth lives. Success is never random, it's structured, and those who rise consistently have a framework, whether they call it that or not. They know their anchors. They don't wake up and scroll through noise. They wake up and act with clarity. They have set rituals, morning, midday, night, not because it's trendy, but because repetition rewires behavior. The person who honors structure gains power. The one who neglects it drifts aimlessly and blames the world for being stuck. Ask yourself, what behaviors are you repeating that are keeping you where you are? And what new behaviors are you willing to commit to? Even if no one notices, even if the reward feels far off. Because here's the truth, everything you want lives behind that discipline. There is no transformation without friction. Change demands discomfort, and only those willing to walk through the fire daily ever make it to the other side. You can have goals, but without a framework, they're just wishes. You can write affirmations, but without action, they're just words. It's your behaviors that turn belief into reality. And those behaviors must be specific, measurable, and non-negotiable. They become your foundation. You don't ask if you'll do them. You just do them, because that's who you've decided to be. This is where most people fail. They keep waiting for the right conditions. But those who win create their own conditions. They build discipline into their identity. They don't leave it to chance. If it's raining, they still train. If they're tired, they still show up. They understand something most ignore. Momentum doesn't come to you. You create it. Consistency beats talent. Repetition beats luck. The one who builds the structure will outlast the one who waits for motivation. Because it's not about how high you jump once, it's how long you're willing to walk without stopping. You don't need to be extreme. You need to be consistent. Small actions performed with focus and intention compound into massive shifts over time. Start with your morning. What do they look like? Are you reactive or are you leading yourself? High performers don't start the day by drifting. They start with clarity, a written plan, a prioritized focus, a commitment to excellence from the first minute. The way you begin your day sets the tone for everything else. Own your mornings and you begin to own your life. Then move into your hours. How do you treat time? Do you waste it or do you respect it? Because the person who respects time multiplies their output. They block distractions. They don't chase urgency. They build importance. They schedule their top priorities and protect them. You don't need more hours. You need more intention with the ones you already have. Your framework should include moments of self-alignment. Time to reflect, recalibrate, refocus. Not once a month, every day. 5 minutes of clarity can save 5 hours of confusion. High performers don't just work hard, they work smart. And part of that means stepping back just enough to ensure their energy matches their strategy. Discipline extends to your inputs. What are you consuming? What are you listening to? What conversations are shaping your mindset? Your habits aren't formed in isolation. They're shaped by what surrounds you. Excellence requires environment, and your environment must match your vision. If it doesn't, change it. Cut what weakens you. Strengthen what elevates you. Most people live in reaction. They go where they're pulled, not where they're called. But when you build a transformation framework, you don't leave your evolution to chance. You decide who you want to become, and then reverse engineer the habits that will take you there. The process becomes the reward, not because it's easy, but because it's true. This framework is not about complexity, it's about clarity. Start small. Choose 3 to 5 habits that, if done daily, would shift everything. Write them down, track them, commit to them. Let your calendar reflect your priorities, not your distractions. Let your actions match your intentions. This is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters with consistency. And when it gets hard, because it will, you return to your reason. The reason you start, the reason you refuse to settle, the reason you kept going when others quit. That reason becomes your fuel. And if you're disciplined enough to remember it daily, nothing can stop you for long. No one talks about how uncomfortable growth really is, how lonely it can feel to choose discipline when everyone else is choosing ease. But that's what makes it powerful. You weren't built to blend in. You were built to rise. And that rise begins with the systems you commit to, even when nobody claps. There's no switch you can flip that makes transformation instant, but there is a set of behaviors you can repeat that make it inevitable. The sooner you stop searching for shortcuts and start mastering your systems, the sooner your future begins to shift. It doesn't matter where you're starting from. It matters what you're doing today, right now, this moment, because every single second is either moving you toward the life you want or away from it. And that's the power of discipline. It gives you back control, not over the world, but over yourself. And that's where everything begins.